My partner at Passion Life, Mark Nicholson, has just returned from India and from China, and tomorrow morning he leaves for Egypt and then to the mysterious country of Azerbaijan. We want to talk about both of these and how we want to help expand the gospel of life into these needy countries. So join us to learn a little bit about both of them as we talk together with Mark Nicholson. It's good to see you, Mark.
Hi, John. How are you today?
It's good to be with you, and I want to welcome all those who are watching this podcast today. We want to talk a little bit about Egypt, which I think most of us are familiar with. At least we can find it on a map, I think. And then Azerbaijan, which I suspect that almost none of us could identify quickly on a map unless you happen to come from that very part of the world.
Yep.
So, let me kick it off with talking about Egypt, Mark.
Sure.
I'm reminded of this verse in Psalm 81. I am the Lord your God who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. Open your mouth wide and I will fill it. This was sort of a psalm reminding the people of Israel that they were delivered out of Egypt by his mighty hand, and therefore he is a God of great provision in every way. And, people are generally familiar with what a central role Egypt has played in biblical history, maybe not so much in modern history, but you're getting ready to go to Egypt. And I'd love to hear some of your initial thoughts about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to go to Egypt with Passion Life. This will be the first time that I've ever been in Egypt, and it will be the first time that Passion Life has been represented in Egypt. And I think it'll be the first time I'm going to take my wife along on this trip. It'll be her first time on the continent of Africa. She's never been on the continent of Africa before, and she's pretty well traveled, so this will be her first trip.
Well, there's a lot to see in Egypt, but you're not going on vacation, are you?
No, not going on vacation. In fact, I tell people I go on these trips, and I know it's much the same for you. We go to some beautiful places on our travels, but we don't always go, to the touristy places. So a lot of times we'll go into a country like, I think I was in India 4 times before I saw any of Delhi or the Taj Mahal or anything like that. They're work trips for us. We go in, we teach, we leave, we get home.
Yeah, so it's a work trip, and the mission, as always in our travels with Passion Life, is to advance the gospel of life in the neediest places. So
that's right.
You're leaving tomorrow, and I know that many of us who are very involved with Passion Life will begin to pray, and people will receive some updates from you. So just let me make an appeal now that if you're watching this program and you want to follow us as we go to places like China or India or now Egypt and Azerbaijan, you can go to our website, passionlife.org, and you can sign up for the text updates, which is when Mark goes overseas or I go overseas, we just send out a picture or a word or something every day on those travels to help you both pray and to feel like you're part of the travel with us.
We get so many comments. On those text updates. Everyone says, "Hey, I just love getting those text updates while you're on the field. It makes me feel like I'm praying for you in real time. Like there's a significant way for me to make a contribution and have an impact on these trips." So really popular. And if you're not on those text updates, we encourage you to sign up, like John said, at passionlife.org.
Yeah, you can't get it unless you actually go and ask for it, because again, we don't want to be spamming your phone. That's the last thing that we want to do. So you have to go there and ask for it, but I think it will definitely be well worth your time. So advancing the gospel of life in a place like Egypt and Azerbaijan, can you just kind of walk us through a little bit of the framing about Egypt?
I will. Yeah, for those who are not as familiar with our particular approach, we partner with churches and teach pastoral leaders and church leaders what the Bible has to say about life, what the Bible has to say about the shedding of innocent blood, what
Yep.
the Bible has to say about bringing the grace of the gospel to the guilt and the grief that's associated with abortion. And we teach them what the Bible says about how to rescue and how people have rescued in the past, how they've rescued in the Bible, and how believers are rescuing the most vulnerable from abortion in our world today. So we call that our 4 questions training. And that's a great start for people to really begin to understand the theological foundations of what it means to treat life with dignity and value and respect all across the continuum of human existence. Male, female, short, fat, rich, poor, black, white. There's it applies to all of humanity equally.
Yeah.
And for a lot of these places, it's kind of a groundbreaking type of teaching because, very much like in America, few of these places are talking much about abortion from their pulpits, and yet it is a commonplace problem in their societies.
For sure. Egypt seems special to me. I guess wherever, since the Bible says so much about the land of Egypt and
Yep.
so much history there. What I read this morning that Egypt actually has quite a lot of Christian history in it, even, going back to Augustine and some of the church fathers. And there's a long history of, even though today it's dominated by Islam. Is that correct?
That's right. My understanding is that it's about 90% Islam, and I could be wrong on these statistics, but I was talking with a fellow this morning who was maybe oversimplifying and overgeneralizing, but he basically said it's around 90% Muslim, and it's somewhere around 9% or so Coptic Christian.
Yeah.
And then a small percentage of evangelical Christians in that country.
Yeah, I looked it up myself this morning. 86.7%. So you're very, very close.
Round numbers. Right.
Of Egypt is Muslim, and they have about 4% evangelical Christians in the country,
Okay.
and then the larger group, about 12% larger Christians. So
Sure. Yeah. Well, and what we'll be doing on this particular trip is we're going to be partnering with a fellow who is very influential and teaches on the faculty of a seminary, the Evangelical Theological Seminary of Cairo. He's been with them for a very long time. He is himself ordained through the Presbyterian denomination. So it's a Reformed theological seminary in Cairo that I think 20 years ago was struggling a little bit. It was just kind of making ends meet and had a few degree programs, but under Thorwatt's leadership and a lot of other people who that he's been working with over the last several years, it's really roared back to a lot of degree programs, a lot of doctoral programs, and hundreds of students from what I understand.
Wow. So you're going to go to Cairo and you're going to be teaching the 4 questions with these seminary students. Is that
with seminary students and with pastors and pastoral figures in the larger Cairo community? So I think it's something that's been opened up to more than just the seminary, but the seminary is hosting it. So that'll be exciting.
okay? And then you're going to go to Alexandria. I mean, you're hitting the 2 biggest cities
That's right.
in the country of Egypt.
That's right. So we'll be teaching in I'll be teaching in Alexandria, and we should have people even from neighboring countries that will be at that one. They have a lot of influence through the seminary into Sudan and some of the countries that are around that area. And so I think there will be significant leaders that want to come and hear what the Bible has to say on these topics.
Okay. Do you know if there are any pregnancy help ministries in Egypt at this point in time, or just
I
what do
don't.
you know?
I'm not for sure. I think there is more research that I could do on that particular question, but I do know this: Egypt is quite conservative on the issue of abortion. The laws around abortion in Egypt are actually quite restrictive, and that is probably largely due to its Islamic the influence of Islam on culture there. Muslims think of abortion as murder. the killing of an innocent baby, the way that Christians think of abortion. So it's not favorable, it's not palatable to the average Egyptian. However, there is a big push right now, as there is in all countries where there are conservative abortion laws, to open up abortion and make it much more accessible and much more palatable for people, because all of the excuses that they always use, it pushes women into dangerous back alley abortions and all of those excuses that are not really true but are used to kind of generally excuse abortion as a good thing.
That's right. Which is why I've been very negative on organizations like USAID. Even though they claim to be doing this great work in health and medicine, they've actually been the primary promoters of abortion and contraception and homosexuality and a lot of other things, transgenderism, trying to change and force the laws to change the World Health Organization. A lot of these global organizations, they're targeting these conservative countries to make them conform to sort of the liberal ideology and the anti-Christian approach to life that we're trying to put our flag in the ground, so to speak, and hold on to these places.
Yeah. A lot of the most conservative nations on the planet, as far as abortion goes, and the lowest abortion rates in the world, a lot of them are on the continent of Africa. I think Egypt is a little bit of a different scenario in that Islam is the specific reason in Egypt why abortion is not as common as it is, say, here in the West. But in a lot of other African nations, it's just the rural, tribal value for life and family and children, and it's just generally a more conservative area.
I noticed when I was in I think it was Nigeria, I was reading that many of the people, the names of that people give to their newborn babies has the tribal word for life in their name as sort of one of the cultural markers of how much they value children and family in Africa in general. But Mark, here's a little bit of a puzzle then with what you're saying, because we're going to be talking about Azerbaijan in just a few minutes, which is also predominantly Muslim, and yet has an entirely different attitude toward abortion. So it gets a little bit complicated.
It sure does.
But so you're going to be teaching in two places in Egypt.
That's right.
What you call this an explore trip? Can you share with our audience, why do you call this an explore trip?
PassionLife really analyzes the data and crunches the numbers and looks from various organizations and sources at where abortion rates are particularly high, where abortion is particularly concentrated in the world. And our goal is to go and partner with churches in those areas to lead well on this issue. So if we can start with churches and Christians understand the biblical dynamics at play, then the pregnancy help works or the intervention works that save babies from abortion are likely to flow naturally out of Christian obedience. We have done that in countries like China and Cuba and Romania and places where abortion is particularly high. And once we establish a beachhead of people who know us and trust us and advocate for our teaching and are reteaching it and asking us to come back and teach with them and train them in a deeper way, we kind of turn our focus into calling that more of a partnership. It turns into more of a discipleship relationship. But when we don't know a country and we are just getting our feet on the ground for the first time, we call it an exploratory trip to explore whether or not the Lord is going to open up the right doors by sending us the right contacts, the person of peace, if you will, who will be able to invite influential leaders where we can see the potential for a movement start and not just a teaching and a training take place on one day.
That's right. And that's really helpful because we don't see the Holy Spirit doing the same thing all over the world. We see him moving in one way or opening doors for us in one country in a way that the doors don't seem to open in another country that we go to. So this is part of our discerning process as to where we put our time and our energy and our financial resources and our best efforts.
And and
Yeah.
to be clear, there have been countries where we have explored before and taught, and the Lord, just for whatever reason, did not give us the kinds of connections and the kinds of interest that generated a long-term partnership with that
Yeah.
country. So it very much is up to the Lord whether or not this will be a one and done trip to Egypt, or whether it's the beginning of trying to work with locals on the ground to really set up a national movement the way we're trying to get started in other places like India and Cuba and Colombia and other places.
Well, Mark, we're going to look forward to doing a program when you get back from Egypt, this land with so much amazing history and culture, and so attractive to tourists and also missionaries, and I'll be very eager to see what kind of connections you make in Egypt with God's people there, the church. And I really love the fact that you're committed to not so much building up Passion Life as an organization in the country, but just going in and helping the church be the church and its life affirming witness in their neighborhood. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Hey, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to switch gears because you're not coming back from Egypt until you stop into Azerbaijan. Now, there's a lot of places in the world that you could go from Egypt. I want to know why you've picked Azerbaijan, and I want to help our audience identify where the heck it is in the world and what you're going to do there. So let's take a break, and we'll be back in a moment.
The U.S. accounts for only 3% of the abortions that happen in our world each year, leaving 97% of the crisis before us as a world missions challenge. Would you join us in serving where the need is greatest? Passion Life, rescuing the most vulnerable where abortion is most concentrated.
We've received a really overwhelming and wonderful response to this tiny baby fetal model that we've developed here in Passion Life. This fetal model is a medically accurate representation from the 9th week after conception. If you go to our website, we've got a way for you to not only send those tiny babies around the world, but find out a way that you can have some of those tiny babies come to you for your own use as well.
So, Mark, I'm going to make a confession to you. When you started talking earlier this year about targeting Azerbaijan for an explore trip, I had to go and look it up because, it's just not a country that we talk about much.
Right.
But there's a reason why this got on your radar screen, and why. So can you show us where Azerbaijan is, and then B, talk about why you want to go there tomorrow?
Yeah. Azerbaijan is one of those mysterious countries that is part of the old Soviet bloc, Soviet Union. It's right on the edge of the Caspian Sea. So you've got Iraq and Iran, right nearby. You've got Kuwait and the whole Middle East is right in that region. I think on the northern side of the Caspian Sea is Kazakhstan, where you have been, where you and I have been. I've been there once, but you've been there multiple times, and I think
I
Kyrgyzstan
think actually
as well.
it's not Kazakhstan. It's
Was it not?
Russia and Georgia.
Okay, on the north side, I thought that Kazakhstan touched the Caspian Sea as well. That's right. The northern side.
It's
is
another
Russia.
part of the Caspian Sea that touches on that.
I see. That makes sense. Yeah. Well, see here, you and I are showing that. I'm on my way there tomorrow, and I'm not exactly sure where I'm going, only because, Azerbaijan is not on a lot of people's bucket list as far as tourism. And, I'm sure it's a beautiful place and there are wonderful things to see and do, but it's not usually something that, you say to your neighbor that, they're going to take a Caspian Sea cruise and go to Azerbaijan next week.
Right.
The other interesting thing about Azerbaijan is that it is predominantly Muslim. In fact, it's much more Muslim in complexion than Egypt is. Egypt is around like you said, about 86, 87% Muslim, whereas I think that Azerbaijan is much, much higher than 90. And there's something really interesting about that, John, and that is that Egypt is so conservative on their abortion laws, specifically because Muslims generally don't like abortion. So why does Azerbaijan appear on this list? These are two lists that we have been using for the last couple of years, starting in 2019, ranking the world's highest abortion rate countries as far as rate is concerned. You can see there in 2019, the highest one was Cuba. And then in 2025, reevaluating the statistics, Cuba has slid down to number 4. You see that India has appeared as number 1. Now, let me clear up the air. A lot of people will say, well, India wasn't even on this original list in 2019. And that's because India was not reporting accurate statistics until about 2021-22. And the same was true with Azerbaijan, which has taken over number 3 on this list in the world. That is extraordinarily confounding in that most Muslim countries are very conservative on abortion.
Yeah.
Azerbaijan is a very Muslim country, and yet it is right in the top of the world's highest abortion rate countries on the planet. So it's a bit of an enigma. Previously, PassionLife has not really worked in any majority Muslim countries in the past. We haven't, quote unquote, had to, as we distill down a list of target areas that are rich in abortion. It's usually not Muslim areas that are on the top of those lists, but in the case of Azerbaijan, it certainly is. And we're going to go and we're going to find out, number 1, why, and number 2, what we can do about it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you my theory as to why it's so high on the list. And that is what you mentioned earlier. It was part of the former Soviet Union bloc.
That's right.
And Russia was really the first country back in the 1910,
right, before the 1920s,
in that period to start legalizing abortion. It was first done in Russia, and it spread to all the Soviet bloc countries, and it became a part of the culture in a way that you think of the Middle East being very different in culture and at arm's length. So I wonder if some of what we're dealing with in Azerbaijan is the long tail of abortion culture that comes out of the Soviet Union.
I think that's a good theory, and we've often noticed that a lot of those post-Soviet bloc countries are high in abortion for exactly the reason that you just mentioned. Another thing that is probably plays into the fact that it's Muslim yet high in abortion is the fact that a lot of the Islam there is very, very nominal. There is an extraordinary amount of wealth in Azerbaijan. Literally, there are places where oil and gases just seep up out of the ground and burn continually, randomly and spontaneously, just fires that burn all the time coming up right out of the ground because of the natural resources that seep through the sandstone in places like that. And there's an extraordinary amount of wealth. Baku is the capital, is a wealthy, modern city, and a lot of the Islam is very, very nominal, and it's a progressive society for a Muslim country.
Well, it's going to be interesting then with the people that you meet there. Ask a lot of them about why they think abortion is so high on this list. It'd be very interesting to get what their answer is. But tell us a little bit about what you're going to do over there.
Yeah. So for those of you who, again, are wondering how you can be involved with PassionLife, one of the ways that we operate once we find an area that we'd really like to go to based on its high abortion rate is we just start talking to people. We start networking with people who have connections with pastors and missionaries and missionary training organizations who know people in those areas who may be willing to be contacted and happy to host a PassionLife training event in their city. And that's exactly what happened here. In this case, it turned out to be a young girl who was friends with my daughter growing up, and she worked for our family business, our family farm, for a number of years. And she grew a deep heart for missions and a love for Muslim people. And she joined a mission agency, and essentially one thing led to another. The Lord opened doors for her to go to Azerbaijan long term. Now, she's not there yet. She's visited there, and she's raising support right now, but she has not gotten to the field yet. And she intends to move there, I think, full-time in February. And she's actually going to go over and meet my wife and me just for this week of training in Azerbaijan. But she's the one who introduced us to the long-term missionaries who live there, who will eventually be her teammates, who have been there a while and have good connections with Azerbaijani believers and other missionary types who are living in Baku.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, people often ask me, we tell them about what we're doing in Cuba or Romania or Vietnam. They say, well, how do you make these connections? And the answer is just what you say. It's often just somebody, everyday people who happen to know somebody from that country, and we follow those leads up and we start conversations which lead to other leaders. And next thing you know, we're packing our bags and heading off for that country. And once you get there, you're going to meet a bunch of people for the first time, but they're going to take interest in what you're doing, and it may be that your second or third trip to Azerbaijan is going to be much more powerful. What are you going to do
Many
over there?
Many times that's the way it goes. I'm sorry?
What are you going to do there?
So there will be 2 trainings in Azerbaijan as well, 2 trainings in Egypt, Cairo and Alexandria, but there will be 2 in Baku I think on back-to-back days, and one will be in English and one will be in Azerbaijani. So one is for more of the missionary community and the international community of Christians that are living there, and one is specifically for the Azerbaijani Christians and the church leaders that are going to be there. So we'll be teaching, again, this 4 questions training material that we have taken all over the world now, and we're really excited about introducing those biblical topics to Azerbaijan.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. So I just want to challenge those who are watching. You can tell that we have a passion for world missions at Passion Life, and we have a passion for the sanctity of human life, and we bring these 2 together. And I'd really like to encourage you to go to our website at passionlife.org and download this document that's called The Moral Crisis of Abortion and World Missions, and really answer the question, what's the connection between these 2? I think it would be really helpful. It's a question that not many people have ever asked, but it will bring your passion for the sanctity of life and expand it into a world missions passion. Or if you have a world missions passion, it will help you understand why abortion and saving the innocent is an entry point for bringing good news to the guilty. And I'd also really like to challenge you to sign up for our text update so you can see what Mark is doing as he goes around the world to these different places. And finally, I'd love for you to become part of our support team. If you are not committed to world missions, this is a great entry point. So thank you for joining us today, Azerbaijan and Egypt.